Ever wonder what the world's first true superpower looked like? I mean, an empire so huge it made everything before it looked tiny. We're talking from Pakistan all the way to Egypt, tying together 3 continents. Well, today we're diving into exactly that, the incredible story of the Persian Empire. Yeah, for 200 years, Persia was the name of the game. They were the undisputed giant on the world stage. You know, a total powerhouse of military might, incredible wealth, and just absolute authority. But the really amazing part of this whole story isn't just what they built, but how they built it. I mean, how does a group of nomadic herders create something on a scale the world had literally never seen before? Well, it all kicks off with one guy, a true visionary who basically wrote the playbook for building an empire. And his name was Cyrus the Great. I mean, just look at how fast this all happened. It's wild. In a little over a decade, Cyrus goes from being a local king to the ruler of this colossal empire. In 550 BCE, boom, he takes over the Median Empire. Then, just 11 years after that, the legendary city of Babylon, it's his. We're talking about a meteoric rise, for sure. But here's the thing, Cyrus's real genius wasn't just being a great general. It was what he did after the battles were won. You see, instead of just crushing the local cultures and traditions, he did the opposite. He respected them. He'd often put local governors in charge of their own people. And think about it. That was an absolutely brilliant move. It kept rebellions down, sure, but it also made people loyal and, just as importantly, kept all those trade routes open and buzzing. So this legacy of smart expansion and tolerance, it gets passed down to his son, Cambyses II. He's the one who pulls off what his father had always dreamed of, conquering Egypt in 525 BCE. And he follows the family playbook. Instead of marching in like a foreign invader, he actually takes on the title of pharaoh. He respects their gods, their institutions, and with that, he pushes the empire to its absolute peak. But then, disaster strikes. It's 522 BCE. Cambyses is on his way back from a campaign, and he just dies, totally unexpected. Back home, a rebellion is starting to bubble up. There's no clear heir. Suddenly, the biggest empire the world has ever known is right on the edge of just completely falling apart. So, out of all this chaos, one man steps up, a guy who's not just going to save the empire, but he's going to totally reorganize it, make it stronger, and set it up to last for centuries. This is Darius I, and they call him the Organizer King for a very good reason. Now, Darius's path to the throne was, let's say, complicated. Yeah, he wasn't the next in line. So what do you do when you need to legitimize your rule? Well, Darius pulls off a PR masterstroke. He has this massive story carved into the side of a mountain. It's called the Behistun Relief. It's basically his official version of events, his propaganda. It says he heroically overthrew an imposter and saved the day. I mean, talk about marketing. He literally carved his resume into a mountain for everyone to see. Okay, so he's secured his power. But now Darius has an even bigger problem. How in the world do you actually run an empire this gigantic? His solution was something called the satrapy. The easiest way to think of it is like a province or maybe a state. He just carves up the whole empire into these manageable districts, and each one is run by a governor, a satrap, who reported directly to him. It was a genius way to centralize control on a scale nobody had ever even attempted. And this whole system was it was an organizational masterpiece. The plan was pretty straightforward, but so effective. Step 1, divide the empire into 20 of these satrapies. Step 2, put loyal nobles in charge of them. Step 3, standardize all the taxes so you know exactly what money is coming in. And step 4, build the roads and canals to connect everything. Simple, right? But it was absolutely revolutionary. And oh man, Darius was a builder. He went all in on infrastructure. He massively expanded the road network, creating the famous Royal Road. He even tried to build a canal to connect the Red Sea to the Nile, which is just an incredible feat of engineering for that era. And of course, he built these breathtaking palaces at Susa and Persepolis. These weren't just fancy houses, they were giant, in-your-face symbols of imperial power and unity. All right, so we've talked about the guys at the top, but what was it actually like to live in this empire? You know, how did their society work? And what was the secret behind that incredible military? So if you picture their society, it was a really strict pyramid. Right at the bottom, you had enslaved people, a practice they actually picked up from the places they conquered. A step above them were the free peasants, the folks working the land. Then you had your skilled workers, artisans, merchants, scribes. And then way up at the top, you had the ruling class, the priests, the nobles, and the warriors. And then at the very, very peak of that pyramid, way above everyone else, was the king. And he wasn't just a ruler. He was seen as the actual representative of their main god, Ahura Mazda, right here on Earth. That meant his power was absolute. The court rituals were all about reinforcing this. I mean, you literally had to lie flat on the ground in his presence. Servants even had to cover their mouths so their breath wouldn't, pollute the king's air. It's wild. Of course, you can't have an empire like this without an incredible military to back it all up. And their army was something else. It was a truly multi-ethnic force, with soldiers from all over the empire. Training in things like archery started when you were just a kid. And the heart of it all was this elite force, famously known as the Immortals, 10,000 of the best heavy infantry around, who were also the king's personal guard. Their battle strategy was just terrifying. First, a massive volley of arrows to darken the sky, followed by a crushing charge of cavalry and infantry.
Okay, so we've got the power, we've got the administration. But an empire is more than just that, right? What were the beliefs, the big ideas that actually held this whole thing together?
Well, for the Persians, the main religion was something called Zoroastrianism. And at its heart was this idea of a constant cosmic struggle. It's a battle between two forces. On one side, you have Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Wisdom, who represents everything good and just. And on the other side, you've got Angra Mainyu, the destructive spirit, who stands for evil and wickedness. To them, pretty much all of history and every single choice a person made was a small part of this epic, ongoing battle between good and evil, light and dark.
So when you boil it all down, why does this ancient empire still matter today? Well, its legacy really comes down to three huge innovations. First, this whole idea of governing with tolerance, of running a massive, diverse empire by actually respecting local customs. Second, that model of centralized government. Their satrapy system became the blueprint for so many empires that came after. And third, the idea of physically connecting the world, of uniting huge territories with roads and other big infrastructure projects.
And that leaves us with a really interesting final thought. Look, the Persian Empire itself eventually fell, but its ideas, they didn't. That blueprint for a tolerant, connected, and well-run superpower was so good that it was copied and tweaked for thousands of years. So the real question for us is, how much of our own world, even today, is still shaped by that ancient design?